Frank, how long have you known about Jory and his story? How long has he been coming around the team, and have you guys been in communication?
Well, Dave, you remember 4 years ago, you could hear whatever I said on the sideline a lot easier than you hear it now. So, I could hear people having phone conversations from across the court during the course of the game. Jory's been as loyal a fan as we've had. And obviously, if he was just standing there by himself or walk in by himself, no one really notices him whether you have 3,000 or 17,000. But when someone's, has a daisy with them, a dog, you try to figure out, like, yo, so you're here all the time. So the university was aware who he is. He supports all the teams, which is unbelievable. Just his commitment to athletics. It's not just our sport. So as the years have gone on, we kind of knew of his challenges. And then when we found out, about his accomplishments and the way he's overcome his challenge, that's the beautiful thing about him is that, we all got an issue. A lot of us try to hide our issues. That doesn't allow us to overcome them. He has embraced his issues, and he's taken that challenge head on and figured out how to become great regardless of that. And, so every one of us is real excited about how he represents us and having us around. He's never actually been in our locker room. This is going to be a first for him. It's going to be a first for, our players. They know who he is. They might know him from campus, but having him in the locker room all day with the team, it's going to be a powerful moment for our guys too. It's easy to worry about negative stuff, and when you see someone like him, it should get you excited about how lucky we really are, and aspire to do more rather than complain about whatever little challenge is in front of us that day.
Basketball questions, guys?
You and Rick have obviously had a lot of games, ones at K-State and Texas, and now here. Just what are the biggest characteristics of a Rick Barnes team?
They're going to fight you from beginning to end. It's I remember playing them. I want to say it was 2010. They were number one in the country, and and I remember kind of listening to the rhetoric going into the game, or I'm sorry, right after the game, and the opinion was that his team, that he wasn't reaching them. How the heck do you become number one in the country if your coach is not reaching you? And they're, he's phenomenal. He's helped me, and I was a rival, and it's not like he and I had an unbelievable friendship from my high school days like I had with Hugs or, I get hired and him and DeLoss Dodds, who was the AD at Texas, who's a Kansas State grad, and Rick and Bill Self were as influential in helping me move forward at the beginning of my career as anyone out there. And those three individuals, the way that they went out of their way to help me, and I was a competitor to them. It's not like I was coaching in a league that they never dealt with. I was right, they didn't need me to do well. They needed me to screw up so they can win games. And those three guys helped me. Unbelievable the way they helped me. And but Rick's teams are just like him. Those of us that remember him from his pre-Texas days, unbelievable competitor. He's just a fiery. That fire burns, and his teams play that way. They're going to fight you from beginning to end, and they're starting to play through his disciplines. It's easy to see when you watch them on film now compared to watching them last year. You saw spurts of it. Now you're starting to see some continuity of it. The guys that have been there that are back are so much better. And then those young kids, they've played a real hard schedule. Those young kids, they've gotten a lot better. So It's going to be just like all the other league games. It's going to be a miserable experience.
Can you go in a little more detail about how Rick helped you? I mean, do you mean in terms of like helping you advance in your career and get coaching jobs? Or I mean, did he vouch for you at times? Or kind of how did that work?
No, I got named the head coach, and immediately, one of your rivals calls you and starts talking to you about the league and the business and the decisions you got to make. And then when the whole world was writing negative articles as to what a fraud I was as a human being and what a fraud I was going to be as a basketball coach, which is fine. That's people's opinions. But, for him to pick up the phone and call and say, Frank, don't pay attention to any of this stuff. This is just, everyone in this business understands what you're about, da-da-da-da-da. And here's a guy that I had a relationship with, but not let's talk on a weekly basis relationship with. And this is a guy that's one of the prominent coaches in the country that I'm getting ready to be a competitor to. Even when it came to contract situations, I didn't know anything about it. Agents, what is that? I didn't know any of that stuff. Heck, I was an assistant coach, and I was happy I was making a salary double my number than what I had made the year before at Northeastern University, or I'm sorry, when I got to Cincinnati. I was just happy that my salary had doubled from what I made at Northeastern. And I was just trying to figure out how to pay a bill and survive, and I had just gotten married, and and for him to help me, walk me through things that are very important to understand this business and this profession, spoke volumes of who he is as a human being to me.
Frank, looking at the development of Rob Felder, he's not afraid to load up and shoot that three-pointer at any time. Just what was it like trying to coach him to say, I know you can make that shot, but you also need to look at the other spaces on the floor? And are you comfortable with him taking those NBA-level threes?
Shooting's the last thing he did in high school. Raw's a distributor. Raw's a guy that's trying to get the ball to other guys. It's when you go watch him play high school games, shooting the three is the last thing he did. But to be able to distribute, you have to understand the team's offensive concepts. You got to know where guys are at. And that's where, when you hear me say to play with his confidence through our structure, that's what I'm talking about. He's so much better now than he was a month ago. It's not even funny. Not from a shooting standpoint, from an understanding standpoint. But that's where the older guys, the guys that have been here, everyone wants to talk about his shooting. Well, I'm going to go back a year. I want you to think about PJ shooting and PJ shooting now. He's learned to work on his game. He's learned to go in the gym. Who did he learn it from? Dwayne Notice, who's going through a shooting struggle. And that's why when you ask me and you're saying, well, are you going to sit him? Are you going to play someone else? No, I'm not. I know how hard that guy works at his game every night, not with coaches, on his own. So now Raw gets here, and and what's he do? He doesn't, hey, what are you going to do now? I'm going to go play video games. No, I'm going in the gym, and I'm going to shoot 1,000,000 balls because last year I couldn't make a three to help this team. So now he sees PJ doing that. So what PJ does? Raw, come on. So now Raw goes in there, and he starts shooting balls with PJ. And when he gets in there, he sees Dwayne in there, and he sees this guy in there. He sees Sindarius in there. He's like, I guess this is what you do in college. So he started working at it. And, he continues to develop. His confidence as an individual player is very good. His confidence in his teammates is very good. Now that he's been able to practice and play basketball and go through our stuff, he's really, really starting to feel more comfortable. And like all good players, when their mind's at peace, then their decision-making is simpler. And you're starting to see that aggressiveness from him.
Coach, the team's been tested twice so far here in league play, and they've responded well each time. But how are you feeling they're adjusting to the change in dynamic and mentality when it comes to SEC action?
Listen, I really like our guys. I've been consistent with that, since late in the summer. I really like this team. I like their makeup. I like what they're about. I like the way that they help each other. You know, here's something that's kind of funny for me, and I'm not into trying to collect a trophy or praise or anything right now. I'm not into that. Okay, we've got 2 more months of basketball to go, and every game's going to be like the first 2 have been, every single one of them. But this is what I do know. Everyone felt that we were 8th, 9th best team in the SEC before the season. Everyone picked Georgia and A&M 2nd, 3rd, 4th. We're 2-0 against some of the teams that everyone thought were going to be 2 of the better teams in the conference. We've dealt with suspensions, injuries, losing a couple games when we didn't have a full squad, but yet we played teams that are NCAA tournament teams, and we went nose to nose with them. I don't know if anyone's picked up on the fact that Memphis has not lost, since before our game, and they're in league play. Seton Hall's on a roll, Clemson's on a roll. I like our team. I really do. And my job is to make them understand that every game's going to be like the first 2. But if the season ended today, our team's accomplished a lot of good. I get a kick out of hearing people question whether our guys are an NCAA tournament team today, yes or no. Are you kidding me, please? We're a good basketball team. How good will we be in March? We're going to find out. We're not trying to collect anything today, but our guys have answered the bell every time this year, every time I've asked them to, regardless of the adversity that we've dealt with, whether it's a loss, a suspension, an injury. And I think we're going to continue to get better as a team. That doesn't translate to wins. I hope it does. But my challenge is to make us keep getting better.
You mentioned Hassani at Georgia. Obviously, he had that big free throw and then had a tap out for an offensive rebound. How much has he improved over the past few games?
Yeah, he's really picked up on all our defensive concepts. And now offensively, he was starting to feel more comfortable. And once again, injury. You're talking about a young player. Young players missing practice time is hard for them because older players can revert to what they understand. They've been through it. I don't need to put Sin, like I've played Sin at the 4 against A&M and against Georgia. He did not get a single repetition of power forward in before either one of those games. But he understands. Young players, they need repetitions. It's all new to them. So they need to figure out responsibilities. Hassani had a couple opportunities on offense to do what he's always been good at this last game. He made some bad decisions on offense. That's part of the growing process. My thing with him is learn the defense, and learn how hard you have to play. He's doing that. That's why he's really starting to help us a whole lot. The offense is natural to him. That's going to continue to kind of go on its own and grow his shooting, his decision-making, defensively, and his enthusiasm. Young players are too wrapped up on a mistake. People want to blame coaches all the time for that. Coaches just don't allow young players to dwell on a mistake. Young players make a mistake and they drop their head. Coaches take those players out because that leads to another mistake. Hassani's gotten past that. He dealt with that early in the year. He's gotten past it. Now he makes a mistake, he's ready to go to the next play, which is what you're looking for.
We saw Evan in uniform the other day. How's he progressing, and is he with you more now that football is almost completely over with?
Yeah, he's full-time now. Before he practiced with us some in November because football was practicing in the morning. But then once we hit the Christmas break, when they got the bowl practices, our practice times were actually at the same time. So he couldn't make both work, so he wasn't around us pretty much the whole month of December. But now he's with us full-time, and I really think he's going to help us. I really do. He understands, as crazy as it is, he's picked up what we do pretty quickly. He's got an ability to score. He's got an athleticism about him. He's very quiet, But he's got when you play football, that's why I love football, because you can't showboat too much, because when you go across the middle, they don't forget that stuff. You're going to get your head knocked over, And so he's got that about him. He's got that about him, and I really, really think he's going to end up helping us. He's got to practice now. He's got to really, really put his arms around everything that we do. The easiest thing to do is run a play to get a guy a shot. Hardest thing to do is for them to understand offensive and defensive structures. You heard me talk about Texas A&M, where we made mistakes on our initial help, which then put us on rotations that we didn't need to make. You saw what happened. You make one little mistake in a high-level game, you're giving up an open shot. And when you play real good players, which, by the way, those three guys are probably getting drafted, so I think they're real good players. When you play real good players, they make you pay for your mistakes. So that's the problem with Evan right now, is when you throw him in there, if he makes a mistake on defense, it's going to cost you a basket or a foul on another player, and you got to protect against that. But I really think he's going to help us.
Any more questions? Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks, guys.